From tornadoes to hurricanes, blizzards, and everything in between, you're listening to the Stormfront Freaks podcast. The Stormfront Freaks are former television meteorologist Mark Massaro, atmospheric science graduate and Skywarn storm spotter Brady Harris, digital meteorologist and weather producer on the Weather Channel app Dina Knightley, former on-camera meteorologist at the Weather Channel Kim Cunningham, and I'm your announcer and Skywarn Network coordinator Mark Johnson. Now, here's the moderator of the Stormfront Freaks podcast, Skywarn storm spotter and chaser Phil Johnson.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to the most entertaining weather podcast on your listening and viewing device. You've joined the Stormfront Freaks podcast. If you happen to be listening for the first time, thanks for stopping by. We always tell you, go to stormfrontfreaks.com because you can check out our library of all the previous and past guests that we've had from the weather industry, folks like Storm Chaser and star of Tornado Hunters Greg Johnson, and Doppler on Wheels scientist Karen Kosiba are just a couple to name a few. We also want to let you know, make sure you're following us on Twitter and Facebook right now because we've still got our 5 weeks of Christmas giveaways going on. I think right now we've got giveaway number 8 is posted if you go to Twitter or Facebook, but we've probably got I think 4 more that we're going to be doing here between now and Christmas. So all you got to do is go to Facebook or go to Twitter or both and search Stormfront Freaks, and you'll find us there. Make sure you follow us and check out what the latest giveaway is and do what you need to do. But this, folks, tonight is episode 68, and as part of our Women in Chasing series, we are with meteorologist for the Weather Network and co-star of Storm Hunters, Jaclyn Whittal is with us tonight. So we're excited to be talking with Jaclyn. We also be having some fun with our lightning round, weather fools, and folks. Yes, we've got a visit from the Weather Trollbot 5000. Weather Trollbot is going to be with us tonight. So you know to make sure to have your kids bring their earmuffs. But before we get to all that, let's go ahead and introduce the team. Every time we record, it's always happy hour. One of the greatest ways to introduce the co-hosts, as well as let you know we're here to have some fun tonight. So, MJ, I'm going to ask you first, what are you drinking?
All right, we got a repeat tonight. I had some in my fridge still. It's Killian's Irish Red.
That looks my brother's favorites. All right.
Good. All right, Maz. Maz, what are you drinking tonight?
68 episodes, and I forgot. What? I know. All of a sudden, I'm like, where's my...
Oh my God.
Had the whole band back together tonight, and you didn't bring your drink.
You sounded like me, Maz. Come on, man.
I know it.
Come on.
I think he meant just he's 68. I don't think he meant...
Ouch.
All right, Brady, then on to you. What are you drinking tonight since
Just
you're
a little
talking
bit of
about
red
the storm?
wine. I've been watching Game of Thrones lately, so put me in a little bit of a red wine. Maybe some mead.
Wow.
Good. Good. All right, Dina, what are we sipping on?
I've got some Merlot too, my Wonder Woman glass.
You are.
Nice.
Okay.
Chilling.
God, I love that glass.
It's awesome.
Good. All right, Kim.
It's wonderful.
Kim Cunningham, what are we drinking this
I am
evening?
also going with red tonight.
Oh my
This is-
gosh.
Wow.
heck?
No beer,
Yeah.
no IP.
Bunch of winos. What the
Well,
heck?
Saturday I had
It's good for the heart,
many. No, it is good for the heart, but this is the Apothic Red, my go-to. Good
All
stuff. It's a red blend. Very nice.
Go-to wine. Very good. And then, fun thing is we always tell our guests we've got a digital green room that's stocked to the hilt of your favorite beverage of choice. So, Jaclyn, I understand you're joining us at the bar tonight as well. What do you have?
I sure am, Phil. I was going to bring a Caesar because I'm Canadian, and I know you guys don't have Caesars in the States. You have Bloody Marys. But I opted for a nice cider. So this is a cider.
Wow.
It's Orchard Berry by a company called Growers. I don't know if you have that in the States, but it's made in Niagara Falls with Canadian apples.
Oh,
Nice.
wonderful.
I'll have to try some.
Yeah.
I had no idea when you said Caesar. I had no idea what you were talking about.
Exactly. See, I should have done it. I was going to do
Canadian
it
thing.
up, celery and all the funny things in it,
Does the can have grapes on it?
It has berries on it. It has this particular one has berries. You can
Kind
see
of threw
here.
me off. Yeah, I didn't. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Well, let's do this. Jaclyn, let's give you a formal introduction instead of a what are you drinking introduction. So, Kim, I'll let you let everybody know who we're speaking with for those that maybe don't know.
Okay. All right. Hang on one second here. Cool. Okay. I am so excited to introduce this woman. Born to be in front of the camera and performing, Jaclyn is the severe weather junkie on the Weather Network team.
Yes.
She's done Women in Chasing series, or she has a Women in Chasing series with Jaclyn Whittal, a digital meteorologist with the Weather Network, and also the host, and at one time a host of Storm Hunters. Jaclyn joined the Weather Network in 2012 with an already impressive background. She started at Rogers TV hosting daytime, worked at 2 radio stations in Barrie, interned at Weather Center in City TV, worked for Global Regina, you got it, and Global Toronto Weather Centers. Now, Jaclyn was a singer and a performer for 12 years before the broadcasting bug caught on, and she moved on to study meteorology, and is a Mississippi State University Operational Meteorology Program graduate. Jaclyn is part of the Storm Hunters team, driving all over Tornado Alley, bringing us reports of volatile weather patterns. Jaclyn, thanks so much for joining us tonight. I think you're welcome. And I think a lot of us want to know, now, how does a singer-performer go to be a meteorologist?
I know everybody asked me that question. That was a really nice intro. So thank you very much, Kim. Basically my whole life I was a musician. I started out as a pianist as a young person, and then I went into singing. So my teenage years, I was, doing musicals and that sort of thing. Went to university for musical theater, and my whole life, my dream was to become a performer on Broadway. And while I didn't do Broadway stage shows, I did do, I guess, equivalents here in Canada. I toured in Europe and played the role of Sandy in Grease the musical. That was
nice.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Wow.
That was when I was 26, a long time ago now. But I did music and performing for nearly 12 years, and I really got to a point in my career where I wanted to kind of tap my academic side, and I was done with auditioning and wearing sexy costumes on stage. And
the leather pants for Sandy.
I had to squeeze into them, I'll tell you, but I wore them, and but that was an amazing experience. And all of it was a very special part of my career and my life. And there's part of me that believes I should probably do that again. It's actually been almost 10 years, believe it or not, since I've been on stage doing anything. So as soon as I decided to switch into meteorology, it was full bore, went threw myself into media, and had to basically start right from scratch at over 30 years old, and starting to work and volunteer my time, and I worked really hard, and now I'm with the Weather Network, which is similar to your Weather Channel in the States. It's a national network. I used to work on the linear TV side, but right now I'm mainly doing more of a digital platform for the company. So doing forecasts for Canada on the app and on our website, which has a massive reach worldwide. I'm very active with our show Storm Hunters, which is definitely my passion. So I'm busy. I still teach piano. I still teach singing, but that's what I do now. So yeah, it's really great to be with you guys. I'm in good company.
I'm excited.
30, you're like so old.
I know. No, hang on. I'm going to be 41. That's
what?
True. Yep. 41.
Well,
Oh my gosh.
Jaclyn, I'm gonna ask you this because it's relevant. So you're talking about age. So how old were you when you made the mental decision to go, all right, I'm going, which is rare, to go from arts to science?
Yeah.
How old were you at that point first?
30. That's when I had that little epiphany that, hey, this has been great, but it's been my whole life. I want to try something different.
So here's the thing, because we have a lot of listeners and viewers that are probably in that similar boat, right? Where they've got a little bit of the weather bug, or they've got something that's tugging at their strings a little to say, hey, you really like weather, maybe you should do this. And they're going, yeah, but I'm already kind of doing
30.
this. So how were you able to do that, switch from one industry and just go, I'm just going to go and do this now and go to school and pay pay all the tuition? And
exactly.
How did you make that happen?
And have a mortgage and 3-step children at the time. And
you had kids then too. Wow. Good for you, girl. Go.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, they're all grown up now, but when I first met my stepdaughters, I have 3. They were 5, 8, and 12, and now they're 22, 25, and 29.
Oh my
And
gosh.
here's the really crazy part. My oldest, her name is Corey. Her and her husband-to-be just had twin baby boys nearly 2 years ago. So I'm actually a grandma.
Oh,
Congratulations.
yes, that's wonderful.
Love them very much, and we call me Glamma instead of Grandma.
Oh, glamour.
Cool.
Oh, I like that. I may steal that.
Yeah, totally.
Mhm.
But they're wonderful, and to talk to how I made that change, because I think my parents in particular are, what you're doing what? I mean, it was one of those things where I thought that media would be a good kind of marriage to my other career. I knew that I wouldn't shy in front of the camera or the microphone in radio, and that's kind of where I started. So I didn't really know it was going to be weather right out of the gates, although I've always had a nerdy passion for weather. My dad would take us down to Fort Lauderdale, Florida every winter, every spring break, and the first thing that he would do would turn on the Weather Channel in the room. And we didn't get the Weather Channel because we were in Canada, so whenever we put the Weather Channel on, we're like, oh, super cool. But he was a weather nerd. I grew up with that. I've always enjoyed weather, but it was at that time that I just kind of went into media, and then one thing led to another, and I signed up for the Mississippi State program, and then it just kind of went from there. And now it's absolutely just as big of a passion as music once was.
So what triggered the weather part? Like, because sometimes people always like, oh, I was in a tornado, or I grew up, I saw something. So for you to change, there had to be something that said weather.
I think I would say my father, because he was always the weather nerd in the family, and we kind of identified with that. But it wasn't like it was this passion I had, throughout high school. I was all about music, and so I never really thought too much about weather. If you told me I'd be a meteorologist in my 30s, I would have thought you were nuts. But I grew up in an area in southern Ontario, so right across the border from Detroit, Michigan. I was about 15, 20 minutes from the border. So, by Canadian standards, that is a very active place for weather, severe weather in particular in the summer season. So, I grew up, hearing the tornado warnings over the river in Monroe, Michigan. And,
Wow.
I was kind of half American in a way, because I knew Fahrenheit before I knew Celsius, I didn't know a lot of our Canadian musical artists. I grew up, everything was, if we went shopping, we went to Detroit, we went to the States. If we went vacationing, we went down to Florida. Yeah. I still do a lot of travel in the States, both with work and personally. So I do feel kind of like I have a bit of both. And oddly enough, about 2 years ago, the Weather Network launched basically a digital presence in the US. And I was the one responsible for doing that. So for the last 2 years, I've been forecasting U.S. weather, which was really exciting. And I got to learn a lot. I'm now back on the Canada side, but I got to learn a lot. And so, it was weird, because I was living in just outside of Toronto, and people would be like, so what's the weather going to be like this weekend, Jaclyn? I'm like, I have no idea, but I can go to Colorado. It's really weird. But it's the digital age where we do so much, remotely now.
I was so excited to hear you were in digital, because that's my life now. So I'm like, go Jaclyn. We got there. Especially, it's kind of cool when you've got somebody in Canada versus the United States, and it's just kind of interesting to hear what they do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, it's so much has changed, obviously. We're in constant meetings, as I'm sure you guys are in your company, about where's the appetite moving forward? We know that the linear platform is changing, but there's still certainly a need for linear TV. Everybody's not cord cutting,
Right.
But it is changing. And, we're exploring different things like, streaming on our app, and there's so many angles you can take on the digital platform, and, doing live field coverage, which I do a lot of, bringing that digital presence. So it's almost like watching a linear platform, but you're on digital. So I really like it. I've really had to diversify. And I think every meteorologist, whether you work for, a local news station or on a national level, you've had to diversify, and that the days of just kind of showing up and doing a shift are done. I'm writing articles. I'm obviously very active on social. You're streaming, you're periscoping, you're living. It's nonstop. And it's awesome, because it's always changing.
And you're bilingual. You speak Canadian and American.
That's awesome.
Put that on your resume, bilingual.
Bravo.
Do you ever cover states or storms in the States?
All the time.
Yeah.
So every season the show Storm Hunters that I host and actually now started kind of producing, not kind of, I'm producing, but I've only done 2 episodes out of like 30. But we go down to the States. We go, I was covering Hurricane Michael, Hurricane Florence this season. We were in Mexico Beach hours after the major storm surge rolled through that area. And it was pretty incredible. I mean, I've covered Moore, Oklahoma, El Reno. I've been at all the big ones in the States because we just tend to be there. The Canadian, our Canadian audience takes a lot of interest in U.S. weather. So much of what's happening south of the border is impacting us, whether it's a nor'easter coming up to the Canadian Maritimes, up the eastern seaboard, or, again, severe weather into the Midwest. So we're north of you, but we watch a lot of what's going on south of us. We're down there all the time. But we're diversifying with the show too. We're becoming a little bit more international now because we've got 30 episodes of Storm Hunters. So we've done Tornado Alley. How do you top, and I say top, but how do you top an El Reno day? Well, it's pretty tough. That's a, historical day. So we're trying to do different things. So last year we shot an episode on the earthquake and the rebuilding efforts in Nepal. And that was really amazing. We went to the Canadian Arctic this past summer, way northern Baffin Island, way up there, and talked about polar bears and climate and all kinds of things. So, we're switching things up. And again, being on digital, that can go to such a large audience. I got to plug my show for a second. Storm Hunters, here we go. Storm Hunters just got distributed as of yesterday on Amazon Prime in the US and in Canada and the UK.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Awesome. Yes, that's wonderful.
So a lot of hard work. It's been in production for, I'd say, maybe 7-8 years now, the show. I've been a part of it for 6. So check it out on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Very good. Hey, we're going to go ahead and take a short break, everybody. Go ahead and refill your drink. And when we get back, we will definitely talk some more about chasing with Jaclyn. All right, so we're back with Jaclyn from the Weather Network, and you were talking a little bit about your Storm Hunters series, and which you said, how many episodes now? You said 30?
I think we're actually like 31 now, which is really cool.
Which that's pretty, I'll be honest with you, I don't know many storm chasing series that make it that, 30 plus episodes. Yeah. That's actually pretty good.
Especially after the tornado years we've had, Phil, right? I mean, the past 4 years has been...
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to go back to this. So you were talking a little bit about El Reno, and it's kind of rare that anytime we have a chaser on, that obviously doesn't come up, and that storm doesn't come up. And I read a little bit that you were, was it half a mile away from Tim Samaras and the group? What I want to know is, what was that day like for you, and where you were at, what you were thinking, kind of what was going on? Were you by yourself or with someone?
I was with my chase team, the production team with Storm Hunters.
How many? What are we talking about in your caravan?
Probably in total, in my vehicle it was just myself and my co-host, and I was actually shooting that particular year. Like, I was camera person / host, so we're wearing a lot of hats. But we also had a team of meteorologists that were in a different vehicle that worked for our company. And then we also had just a couple other fellow chasers that people may know: Scott McPartland, Dave Lewison, Chris Kreidler, just to name a few. It's kind of a close-knit circle. So they were traveling with us as they do every chase season. And our experience, as soon as I hear it and I hear you sort of intro it like this, I get this weird feeling in my stomach, because it had that feeling that day. That day was the longest wait for storms to go up, or at least it felt that way. Maybe because we all had that pit in our stomach, and it took till like 5:30 in the afternoon for anything to really go up. And
where'd you start?
We started just east of where we ended up, which wasn't far. Like, we were on Highway 81, which is where Tim and crew were, just off of Highway 81. Everybody was on Highway 81, but we were just east of there, and we were at a gas station, and just hanging out, sun sky. Could have been one of those days that everything would go up or nothing would go up, even though it was such a high risk day. And we were just playing cards and like waiting, and nothing was going. And finally the cap broke, and off we saw a couple blips on radar, and we got in the car, and went fast. And within about 20 minutes to a half hour, that storm, went up to this explosive monster supercell that obviously, put down the largest wedge in history. And of course, we didn't know this then. So our experience, basically, we were along Highway 81, and nobody really knew what we were looking at. George Karunas and Mark Robinson are the two people that I chased with. George Karunas was also in a different vehicle. He was north of, I don't know how familiar everyone is with Highway 81, but it's kind of like gone down as like a historical spot to be, I guess, on that chase. Mm-hmm. It's a north-south, highway. And of course, this is where Mike Bettis was, and that truck obviously was heading south on 81 too, and that story. But my friend George and my partner George radioed to us up near the airport, which was north of where the tornado was, and he said, "Okay, tornado, we've got a confirmation." None of us could see anything because it's just this rain-wrapped beast. But then all of a sudden, we could see it getting closer, and I just thought it was rain. I didn't realize, I guess only my second or third chase here at that time, and I didn't really know what I was looking at. And sure enough, what I was looking at was the outer edges of this massive tornado that grew so rapidly, as we know, and then started to cross basically just north of us, which would all be fine if we had a nice escape route going south. The problem is that there were so many chasers on the road that day. Everybody was trying to escape this massive beast of the storm. So we were trying to get out. I'm shooting out the window. I see these people getting into their storm shelter and literally closing the door behind them. And I'm going, oh my gosh, I don't know if this is, and before I can think we got to go, all I see is brake lights. And everybody, like hundreds of locals and chasers, are just all trying to flee at the same time. And that was the most terrifying part, because I didn't really know that I'm looking at the world's largest tornado. I just knew it was a tornado, which I had seen many times before. But it was something I'll never forget. And at that point, we didn't know what happened to Tim and crew. We didn't know what happened to Mike Bettis. We didn't know what happened to Greg Johnson. And I think Reed Timmer was in some trouble on that one. So everybody couldn't flee quick enough because the storm just did unusual things. So yeah, we had to radio to our friends to make sure they were okay. A good friend of mine, a chaser from Australia, his name is Dan Shaw. He was hit by a transport truck because the transport truck was hit with the outer edges of the tornado, and that hit Dan's car, and just terrifying footage that came out of that day. And that was our last chase day. And by last day, I mean, it was our last day before we went back to Canada. And I thought it might be my last chase day forever, because I was really shaken up by it. We had spent, days before that, several days reporting and more on the EF5 there. So we were already just, not to make it about us, because it was obviously so much about everyone else, but just tired and stressed and like, oh, geez. So after El Reno, that was it. And I thought maybe I may not chase again. I did many times.
Was there a point during that you were thinking, oh my God, this, like you had that this could be it, thought going, what was that point? Where were you what was going on?
Yeah, I always go back. It's kind of a blur, but then there's other things that stand out that I'll never forget. And I think it's those people getting into their storm shelter. You always interview people that have come out of their shelters, and you've talked to people, hey, did you take shelter? But actually me being there and seeing all these brake lights at the same time that these people are now getting underground, and I know that I have no escape route, really. Anytime that we're ever in a predicament like that, we always make sure we have an escape route. But everybody was on that same county road waiting on the same storm, because I think we were all waiting that afternoon for so long for storms to go up that when it did, we all just went on the same cell. And everybody was just, it was dangerous for everyone. And I think it's really changed storm chasing and how we all approach storm. I know it has for me and a lot of my colleagues. We play it safe, and we always did, but even safer now. Sure, you make mistakes sometimes. You make a wrong turn, you get too close. But ever since that day, I think it's changed a lot of chasers.
So, did you say that was your third main chase?
I think that was my third season. That was 2013. Okay. So no, you know what? It was my second season. So oddly enough, when you started the show, you talked about Greg Johnson, the host of Tornado Hunters. So he was my first chase partner. And I was living out in Saskatchewan in the Canadian prairies, working at Global Regina, which is a local news station. And Greg approached me, and I, like I said, if you told me I was a meteorologist and a storm chaser in my 30s back then, I would have thought you were nuts. So he just said to me, hey, have you ever thought about going to Tornado Alley and chasing some storms? And I'm about as green as it gets. This is my first weather gig, and I said, yeah, sure. Why not? Okay. So I talked to my news director, and he approved it. And because we have such a active severe weather season in the summer in the Canadian prairies, he thought it was a great opportunity to kind of brand us as, hey, we're your severe weather experts. We were in Tornado Alley in May, and here we are now back at home in July. And it was an incredible year. That was the year of Jaclyn and the Piedmont Day, and there were so many things going on that year. So that's who I chased with first. And Greg's a good guy, and we've remained friends since. And so now he has a show, Tornado Hunters, and I have Storm Hunters. And yeah, it's kind of weird that we both ended up with TV shows.
So I want to go back to Phil's question for a second, because I think it's very unique with that being your second season and probably being very excited, as most people are, but because you were so green, and that's such an interesting perspective. At what point did you, besides the people when you saw the tornado, or what was that realization moment when you did you see it coming out of the rain, or what was that moment where all of a sudden you're like, hey, oh no. Yeah. When did that happen?
I don't think I ever knew that it was out of the rain. What I mean is it never revealed itself as, oh, there's the tornado. Okay. It just looked like a massive 2.6 mile wide, mass of rain, like just a massive rain shaft coming at us. That's what we thought. So I don't ever recall saying, oh, okay, there. What I do remember is thinking, that is the tornado. Like that might be the tornado. Like what we're thinking we're looking at isn't just rain. And as it came closer, and we know it accelerated and changed directions, you could see that out in the field, and we can see that in our footage, where you can see it's there, and then, okay, it's really coming close to us very quickly. Thank God we were far enough south on that highway that we could get out, even despite the traffic jam. But obviously people that, were north of me on Highway 81 couldn't get out. And, Tim, I didn't know Tim that well, but he was a colleague, and a lot of chasers know everybody kind of thing that does this. But as I understand, he was definitely the real deal. He was not a thrill seeker. He was out there for science. He was doing it for the right reasons, so to say. And, I know exactly where he was at, because we went back the following year and kind of paid our respects. And, you just couldn't escape in time. That thing moved so quickly, and it crossed the road in a way. There's right turners, when we talk about supercells, and then there's that. It just was like accelerating and changing directions. And I don't know, if you were in the wrong spot, you just didn't have a chance.
So you mentioned it wasn't a very great visually interesting tornado, right? I mean, it really was a big, massive rain shaft cloud that covered such a big territory. There was really no edge to it.
Yeah.
So visually, tell me a little bit visually, what have been some of the most interesting storms, whether it's tornadoes, whether it's hurricanes that you've seen, Jaclyn, whether your camera caught it or not, what would have been the most visually interesting storms?
Okay. I would probably say my first tornado I ever saw was a beautiful stovepipe tornado in Ada, Oklahoma. That was in 2011. And it was just beautiful. It was at dusk. It appeared like it was coming down this roadway toward us, even though it wasn't. It was kind of going the opposite, like it was kind of going parallel, but it just had this beautiful shot. I was with Greg Johnson that year. It was my first tornado. I just remember not like having this exhilarating feeling like, wow, like I'm looking at one that is real. This is the real deal. It looks so tall to me. So that one always stands out as probably the best tornado I've ever seen. In terms of structure, we've seen some amazing, structure out in the field, too many to even recall. But I was able to get into my first eye of Florence this season. So that was pretty neat. Visually, it wasn't all that neat, but I had never been in the eye of a hurricane. And while it was a weakening Cat 1 at that stage, and it was kind of overcast, it wasn't a clear eye, it was still so cool to be literally reporting in blasting winds, and then to go to like frogs, chirping and stillness and just like little drips of drizzle. And I actually took a little video on my cell phone and put it up on Twitter, and I looked like such a goof because I was just so excited. Neat, and I can only imagine what it would be like to see, the stadium eye and something like that, which is so rare to get. I think some people did get it on Hurricane Michael, but Hurricane Michael was probably the most, I actually think I've changed since Hurricane Michael. I think I prefer chasing tropical weather over tornadoes now, which is kind of neat. My storm chase partner is all about tornadoes still, but I really love tropical weather. I love the sheer size of the systems and that it's a long duration event. I think tornadoes are more difficult to chase because it's like, finding that needle in a haystack kind of thing and finding the exact target zone. But hurricanes, there's just a relentless power to those storms that just wears you down and as a chaser, but it's awesome. We wrote out Michael. We wrote out, what's that?
As long as you're not on the wrong side of the storm surge, right?
Yes, exactly. Then it's not so good. And I think, that interesting you brought that up because Michael, there were a lot of people that, there were not a lot of strong structures in and around the Mexico. Are you guys all familiar with that whole setup? And were you, Brady, were you there, Brady?
No, I wish I was there. I wish I was there.
Just the way you said that, I'm like, am I?
I had no one to go with. I asked Phil, and he was like, "No, I can't.
Phil,
I don't have any vacation days."
Well, there's a lot of scrutiny, I think, on chasers. I'm sure you've probably heard about it too, on Michael. That there were certain people that were driving around in their cars chasing Michael, which at this point was coming on shore as strong Category 4 hurricane, and a couple chasers had their car washed away with surge, like literally while they're documenting the storm. And I'm very proud to say that we played that storm extremely safely. I would have liked to have been closer to the right side of the eye wall. And, we talk a lot with other chasers, and we had scoped out Mexico Beach and of course where the Tyndall Air Force Base is, just east of Panama City Beach. We looked at all that area and there was nowhere safe to ride out the storm. And it's just not, it's not worth my life to get that amazing footage. So we were on the left side of the eye wall. We still probably got 130 mile per hour winds, according to some obs that were pretty close to us. And we were in a strong structure. We were at a parking garage right near, what was the hotel? Treasure Island, if you're familiar at all with Panama City Beach. So we had this huge hotel that was blocking any debris from coming into the parking garage. And then, of course, we had the parking garage that allows us to shoot and hide behind really big beams and pillars. And so it's really kind of fun riding it out in a parking garage. And we knew that we had mostly offshore flow so that surge wouldn't be an issue, even if we had to get our cars out at the end. And I think as a journalist, that's a good way to play the storm too, because it's all great to be on the right side of the eye wall in Mexico Beach, but if you can't report on anything after because the cars
lose the signal, right?
And didn't you get a ton of wind in that parking garage? You think you get a ton of wind blowing through there?
We did. I mean, it was, like I said, it was offshore flow, and but it was certainly decent. It was, our footage. When we put together the show for Storm Hunters, nobody, the viewing audience doesn't say, "Oh, well, they're definitely on the left side of it."
They don't know. Yeah.
It's hurricane footage and it looks awesome, and it was awesome. And there were still some tense moments where we were. I mean, it's not like we were right by the eye wall, but we were just on that left side. And obviously we know the right quadrants where all of the crazy action goes. But what was nice is that as soon as the storm ended, and it was a short duration event by hurricane standards, we literally got in our car and drove to Mexico Beach, within hours that day. And so then we were like ready to go. We were ready to do our job. And then we got some great drone footage, and that did very well on many platforms. I think the Weather Channel actually used it, and CNN, Anderson Cooper led his newscast with our footage, and we were like, yes.
Wow.
That's great.
Cool.
So, that's good value. That's good, ROI, I guess. If you're in the strongest part of the storm, sometimes then you're kind of useless if there's so much debris around you that you can't do much. So that was the best. As you can see, I get excited about Michael. I would say that was the best chase of my life. I loved that storm.
Oh, that's
What level were you on in the parking garage?
Various. We would go down to the base, have a bit of fun, go out and kind of sample the winds with our anemometer, and then if things like debris was flying, we were like, okay, let's go up a level. We'd go up a level, and we would just kind of move around. And actually, we did have a close call where we went into the hotel itself to kind of take a break from the parking garage and get into the structure. And as I walked out, the glass door blew right off behind me.
oh my God.
So that was scary. And then I was running to get back in the parking garage, and the winds picked me right up, and I fell on my hip. And it's so funny. And Dina, you could probably appreciate this. Like, that's the video that went viral.
Oh, yeah.
With your butt in the air or something crazy. That's the one that's going to go.
That was me.
That's what helped it make
It was
go viral.
Did the hotel bill you for the door?
No.
No. Okay, that's good.
But I'm wondering, you had severe, you've had tornadoes, you've had hurricanes, and I was looking at your Twitter feed. You had one like back in the spring or something at Everest. You went to there too at base camp.
Yeah, so that was a part of that episode in Nepal that we were shooting about the earthquake. So the earthquake was almost 4 years ago, I guess. And so a lot of the country is still, because it is such a poor nation, unfortunately, they're still rebuilding from that earthquake. So we thought, hey, maybe we could shoot that episode, cover it with awesome, but good B-roll to tell the story. Obviously devastating B-roll, but package it and make it a really great show, and then get those personal stories while we were there. So we did do that, and I think it turned out to be a really great episode. But the Everest part was basically we had a helicopter company take us to Lukla Airport. If you know Lukla, that's the most dangerous airport in the world. That's crazy. So we were landed in a helicopter, which is great, but in a fixed wing aircraft, you're basically landing in the Himalayas on the edge of a mountain on a 1,700-foot runway that's on like a, 8-degree pitch.
1,700 feet? That's it?
Unbelievable.
Oh my God.
And these planes come in, they
crazy.
take out, and literally you take off, and it's like you're taking off an edge of a mountain. And you
Oh
better
my
hope-
God.
Hey, better hope.
Quick, jump in.
Hey, better
Or
hope.
quick, jump off. We're here. Go, 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 go.
That's it.
Crazy.
When we were at Lukla Airport, I was so sick. That was my day. You go
Oh my
world
God.
traveler. That was my day that I was sick. And I remember lying on the pavement in a winter puffy jacket with helicopters landing in front of me,
Oh my
trying to sleep. So we went up to base camp. And because we went up to base camp without climatizing ourselves to that elevation, we actually
Oh.
only had 5 minutes to get off the helicopter and 5 minutes to get back on. And that's it. Because
Really?
Yep, because then you can have, what is it, pulmonary edema, I think it's
Yeah.
called.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it's real. And I felt okay. I got off. I was there. I was selfieing it and doing some Everest shots, and all the people on base camp were waving at us. It was such a rush. And then my chase partner, though, when he went up, he felt really weak in the knees. And then the coolest part of that was that we got back in the helicopter to go back to Kathmandu, and we were flying. We were threading the needle between thunderstorms in the Himalayas. I was like,
Oh,
Can I be
my
Bessie,
Wow.
I want to go with you.
Yeah,
Get out
seriously.
with you.
You know what? I think I'm going to Kathmandu.
I'm with you, man. Let's
Where I
go.
want to go to.
Right now.
I want to hang out with Jaclyn. She gets
I
Even
know.
tomorrow.
My
cool
God.
stuff.
Anytime.
Like,
Okay.
What
get
a
out of
great
here.
career. What a career.
All right,
Yeah.
Jaclyn,
Hold on,
do this
Phil.
for
I
us.
got
Okay,
one last
question.
last question.
Last
This will be quick. So I was reading your bio, Jaclyn. It says you like horseback riding. Now, have you ever considered riding horseback chasing? I mean, I think that could be
Jeez.
Wow.
pretty-
God, you
I
better
don't
have a
know.
damn good exit strategy.
I don't know. Yeah, just
The
Okay.
horse is going to look at you like, I don't think
I
so.
don't think so. Okay, my answer to that, Brady, is that I am such a beginner that my horse probably would just stop and be like, no. lady." I don't know if you guys ride, but I'm like at the, I'm just learning to canter right now. I'm really not very good. So no, that would not end well.
It's an
All
idea
right.
someday.
So on that note, so you told us a little bit about storm hunters. how can other people find you or follow you on social media or reach out to you?
Well, you can go to theweathernetwork.com/stormhunters, and then most of our episodes are there for viewing. You can watch a show on Amazon Prime, as I mentioned. If you are listening from Australia, we are on National Geographic in Australia, and we're on Sky Network in the UK, because you never know. We have international listeners, I'm sure, here. And you can also follow me on Twitter if you want, which is J Whittal, WHITTALTWN. So that's my Twitter account, and that's pretty well where I do most of my social media. I probably should be doing other things like Instagram, and anyway, it's hard to stay
enough. That's enough.
Yeah.
You know.
All right. Well, hey, that's the sign. It is time for our lightning round, Jaclyn. This is our game show of flashy questions that we always have with our guests. We always invite our listeners and viewers to play along with us. Tonight, we're going to play a little. Have you ever heard of Cash Cab?
Yeah, I have heard of that. Yeah.
Okay, so Cash Cab was a game show. I believe that was Discovery Channel or something like that. But it's a game show that was done in a cab, and it was they would ask questions, and the questions would be worth money. And they would be on their way to wherever these folks were actually planning to go. They just get in a cab and think they're in a cab, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's a game show. And then the goal is to answer all these questions before you get 3 strikes. And if you get 3 strikes, they let you off wherever it is that you got the 3 strikes, and you get 0 money. But if you make it all the way to your destination before 3 strikes, you can actually potentially double your money with a final question. So
wait, money? I didn't know we had a budget.
This is Monopoly money. Monopoly money.
Oh, Monopoly money.
Yeah, this is Canadian dollars we're playing with tonight. So here's what we're gonna do. The focus of these questions, Jaclyn. So you've got a music background, and you were actually talking about, hey, maybe I should go back and maybe record something, and I think it's a fitting time of the year that you should go back and record a Christmas album. But all of our questions tonight are going to be based upon Christmas music songs.
Okay.
And I'm tempted to make you have to sing the answer. Is what I'm actually thinking. But so here's how Cash Cab works. You actually get a couple lifelines. One lifeline is you can phone a friend. My question to you is, do you have a phone on you right now?
No, but
okay. Don't worry. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you I'll give you 2 lifelines, and they're both going to be pull a freak, right? Like you can pick one of the freaks to help you out. If you need help with an answer, you can pick one of the freaks. Okay. So I'll give you 2 of those.
Okay.
So here we go. Are you ready to roll?
I'm ready to roll.
All right, let's do this. Okay, so question number 1 is worth 25 fake dollars. How many times, and these are Christmas songs, right? How many times does Santa check his list?
Twice.
Correct.
Ooh,
that
nice.
is correct. He checked
Wait,
his
she's
list
got to
twice.
sing it.
Twice.
No.
There's more. There's better options. Here's a better option. All right, second question. So this is for another 25. One foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say what?
Rudolph with your nose so bright, why won't you guide my sleigh?
Tonight.
Sing it. Yeah. She got it. She
Tonight.
got it.
You missed tonight, but we'll give it to you. We'll give it to you. You missed tonight. All right, so you're at $50. Question number 3 is also worth 25.
There will be singing with this tonight?
I don't know. I'm waiting for her to sing, but
there's going to be dinosaurs on the dinosaur tour.
Here we go. Question number 3. Why do I want my 2 front teeth for Christmas?
Oh.
Why do I want my 2 front teeth for Christmas?
That's not a song.
I don't remember this one.
That's not a song.
Oh, I know what it is.
Do you? Okay, Kim.
I do.
All right, so you're going to use up one of your lifelines already. Kim,
So
go ahead.
I can wish you a Merry Christmas.
So I could wish you a Merry Christmas?
Yeah, something like that.
That is correct.
Go,
All right, so you're up
All
to
right, you guys share some of
75.
that money. Okay.
75 fake bucks. Here we go. Question number 4 for $25 before we go up to the next level is what do Janice and Jen want for Christmas in the song It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Come on.
Okay. Dina doesn't look like she's going to be much help.
I know. I'm trying to
I
sing
don't
it
know
and not
it.
embarrass myself here.
All right.
I have to mute myself.
Time's counting down.
Oh,
got anything?
I got nothing.
All right,
Oh,
that's strike
first try.
number one.
Oh,
Strike number
What
one.
was it?
What was it?
It's dolls that will talk and will go for a walk.
Darn
I
it.
would have never
Oh,
got
you
that.
were singing.
Go for a walk.
You're asking other people singing. You
This is
guys.
the hope of Janice and Jen.
There you
Okay.
go.
Oh, I would have never
Here we
got
go.
it.
Now we're going up to $50, so the questions might be getting a little bit more difficult.
Wait, Phil's the first
Jaclyn.
one to sing on the show.
I know, it's depressing. All right, Jaclyn, here we go. The Grinch is as cuddly as a what? The Grinch is as cuddly as a what?
Oh, gosh.
I got it.
We as a shoot, we sing this every day. God,
Grinch is
Every day?
with the kids around Christmas.
All right, Jaclyn, you got it, or are you
We
going to
as a
I don't
pull a
have
freak?
it.
I got it.
You got it? Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Maz?
Cactus.
cactus.
As cuddly as a
The
cactus. That is
cactus.
correct.
Yeah,
But
nice.
it
That
ding,
is
ding,
correct.
stunk.
You're a mean one.
All right, Jaclyn. Here we go. $125. $125. This is good for another 50 right here. Good tidings to you and all of your what?
I got it.
To you and your.
You and your kin. Is it kin?
Yes.
Kin. That is
Yes.
correct.
Woo! Kin.
That is correct. So you're at 175. All right, next question is for $50. On the
Okay.
11th day of Christmas, what did my true love send to me?
11
11th.
pipers piping.
11 pipers piping. That is
Oh,
correct.
good job.
Nice.
Wow.
You know what? We
Nice.
do that every Christmas party every year at my house, which happened last weekend. Our whole family has a part that we get assigned. It's super intense.
Oh, we do that too.
How do you get them all in there? That's a lot of pipers.
It's a lot.
A
Yeah,
lot of pipers.
a lot of pipers.
All right, here we go. This is the last question, Jaclyn.
Okay.
This is for $50. You're at 225 right now. What does Alvin want for Christmas in the Chipmunks song?
Oh man.
Oh,
What
not
does
too-
Alvin want for Christmas in the Chipmunks song? And you are out of lifelines, by the way.
Oh, I am?
Oh
Yep.
man.
All right, I'll give you one more.
Oh,
I'll give you
No
one more.
idea. I don't know.
What does Alvin want
Says
for
it looks
Christmas?
I know it. I know it.
You do?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead,
All right,
Brady.
Brady.
All I want for Christmas is you.
That is incorrect.
Wah,
Unfortunately, I don't think the
wah.
Chipmunks did that song.
That was good, like Mariah Carey.
All right.
You know.
All right, so here's where we're at, Jaclyn. We're at the end. We've reached our destination. You have 2 strikes is all you've got. So I've got 225 fake dollars for you,
Nice.
or you can
Yeah.
double it to 450 and answer the final question. It's up to
Double
you.
it.
Oh, let's
Lit.
double or nothing. Let's
Take
do
take
it.
the
Double
fake
down.
money or double the fake money and risk losing
Double
it all.
Or that.
Man. She's gutsy.
Yeah.
I know it is crazy on here. Okay, here we go. Who was seated next to me a day or two ago in the song Jingle Bells? Who was seated next to me a day or two ago
Oh,
in the song Jingle Bells?
I got it.
and I don't have any lifelines.
'Cause I'm
Uh-oh.
old.
No,
that's
it's the
why.
final question. Yeah, I'm not going to give you a lifeline.
Wait, okay, so who was seated next a day or two? No, that's the line, right? Yeah.
No, that's right. Yep, a day or two
Keep
ago.
going. Sing the whole thing.
I don't remember the words then.
I know.
You know?
Not a mister.
I gotta take a ride, I think.
Yeah, keep going.
But seated next to me.
Soon.
I would just throw out Santa or something.
No.
But something by my side.
It's a girl. It's a girl. Shh.
A girl?
Yeah. Well, a lady.
I got it. I
Yeah,
got it.
unfortunately, we're not going to give that to you. But it was Miss Fanny
Miss
Bright.
Fanny-
Oh,
Miss Fanny Bright.
remember that one.
Really?
Miss Fanny Bright. Yeah, I had no clue. That's why it had to be the double or nothing question.
Yeah.
I really became risky. Now I have no money for Christmas presents.
You don't. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, you are out all the fake money I was about to send you in the mail. So, but anyway, appreciate you playing along, Jaclyn. Great job. We're gonna go ahead. We're gonna take our final break. Stay right here. We're gonna have some more fun by calling out some weather fools and hearing from Weather Trollbot 5000. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everyone. Hope you enjoyed your break. Phil, thanks for the applause. I got a couple comments that were saying they really wanted applause for the Weatherful segment.
I was giving them the cut sign and they didn't see it. So
well, thanks for including.
Lucky.
Anyway, what is Weatherfools for those that are listening for the first time? Weatherfools is a segment where us as the freaks, as well as our guests, are going on the internet. We're going on Twitter. We're going on YouTube, and we're looking for anything that someone did that was stupid, that was dumb, that also pertains to the weather. So, Phil, I understand you have an incredible one tonight. Who is your weatherful this week?
My weatherful comes from Anchorage, Alaska, and this actually has nothing to do with the earthquake they recently had. This has to do with some snowy weather, and this was from NBC News. You see how right now you see boots, and the guy's kind of slipping down, but he's pulled over on this road. They seem to be on a hill, but what happens is as the video goes on, there becomes a situation where there's a car. You see how this SUV is just sliding backwards. It has no control at all, sliding backwards, rammed right into a truck.
It keeps going.
The rest of this video just shows people that are kind of zooming by. And I shouldn't say zooming, it's relative. But they're zooming by these wrecked vehicles going up this hill. Don't you think they'd know, man, I better slow down. This just doesn't look like it's a good situation. And there's just car after car. Here's a Jeep trying to go up, and we'll see if they make it or not. But so that's my weather fool. Is just people that when they come across, and this is going to happen to all kinds of people. In the winter is when you come across a situation and you see cars stopped along the side of the road, multiple cars, and they're pointed in a different direction. That's a sign to slow the F down, right?
Sure is.
Down.
Hey, Phil, can we also do a public service announcement? And if you see emergency vehicles pulled over with the lights, move over another lane.
Phil, you need to start a lecture circuit. It's called Common Sense by Phil, because I just don't understand it. I don't understand it.
I think that'll be a new
segment.
PowerPoint we do is just we'll go around the country doing weather fools.
I'm in.
Weather fools PowerPoint.
That'd be fun.
Hey.
I'm in. All right, Phil, that was fantastic. Dina, what is your weather fool this week?
All right, so mine is in Alaska as well. This guy, he's funny. His truck is parked in the parking lot, and his daughter has like this like a play kitchen that he's trying to get out of the truck. So he keeps sliding, and it's so funny. It's foolish, but it's not totally bad. But he keeps sliding. He's trying to get it out. He slides down the driveway. Then he tries to get back up. He slides down the driveway, and his wife's laughing at him through the whole thing because he can't get it.
Oh God!
And then there he goes down.
Whoa,
down
he's
he
really
goes.
sliding down the
Right
road.
Across the road. Wow.
Oh, and then he comes up. He's like, "I'm gonna run it. I'm gonna run it," and he just can't do it. It's like running on a treadmill, and then there's a car going by, and he's still trying to get this thing up. It's so funny. You gotta watch it. And the length at this, I give it to him though. This dad was like, he was really trying, but
that's so
my
sweet.
God,
property value on that house just dropped about 20%.
It's
because of that video.
Funny, and the part of him like trying.
Good Lord!
Wow,
it goes down. So
that is awesome,
and he does. It's funny, but
Dad of the month.
oh my God, you got to watch it because he really he finally does get this thing in there.
Oh, that is so sweet.
it's incredible. Incredible. Well, that's why we hate ice storms. Ice storms are the absolute worst.
$20 game and a $500 medical bill.
Yes,
it's just funny watching somebody try to sprint up a hill and they're not moving.
Yeah,
they're like 2 inches and they're like
still going the opposite way.
Like a bad dream.
Yeah.
One of our viewers, Mason, says ice surfing in Alaska.
Yeah.
Well, those are pretty great. Thanks for those weather fools this week. If you want to check those out, we'll have the links on our website at stormfrontfreaks.com. What is this episode, Phil? It's 68?
Episode 68.
68 on the show notes section.
Very good.
Take it away.
All right, so I want to introduce, so some of you are familiar with our Weather Trollbot 5000. What happened was a few months ago, we scraped up enough cash to go to a garage sale, and we found this like a robot, right? And we programmed it a little bit, and we've called it Weather Trollbot 5000. But what it does is we find all of the trolls on social media and the internet that are bugging the crap out of our weather friends, and we input all this information into the Weather Trollbot 5000 to find out what our weather friends were really thinking when these trolls were slamming them on social media. Because, you know, in this industry, our weather friends are usually very professional and very nice, because they have to keep their job. But deep down, you got to really know what they were thinking. And so our Trollbot does a good job of figuring this out. I warn everybody in advance, the Trollbot, we forgot to put the explicit tag on it. And so Trollbot has been known to have a little bit of a potty mouth. So any young ones you have, now would be the time to pull out those earmuffs.
The filter was extra cost.
Yeah, and so it was. We didn't have the money for that. Lord knows. So here's the first one I'm going to share with you guys. We got a couple to share with you tonight. The first one comes from James Spann, a former guest that we've had on the show. This was in reply to recently there was the weather storm, the winter storm, and I forgot what the Weather Channel.
Diego,
yeah. So that was rolling through the plains in Texas and dumped a lot of snow in the Carolinas. But there was potentially early on, there was talk, of course, which is always the case, of a lot of snow in the plains being dumped by this thing. And what James Spann, so this is his reply to some of the recent feedback on Facebook. And so one comment came from Cody Boatman, said, "Tired of listening to y'all's bullshit. You couldn't predict how many hours there are in a day." Right? AJ Butler said, "How much Walmart paying y'all to blow this completely out of proportion?"
Nice.
And so James came back and he just said on Twitter, he says, "You know, I feel for my friends and colleagues in Oklahoma. We've all been down this path, getting brutal on Facebag." That's what he calls Facebook. He calls it Facebag. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and type this into the Weather Trollbot 5000. I'm going to type in that response. And then I'm going to go ahead and let it compute. And we're going to find out here what, I guess what James was actually thinking. Let's see what he says.
Here's what James was really thinking. My friends and colleagues in Oklahoma are learning what the jerk-offs that frequent Dollar General stores are really like.
Okay, so he's apparently, James, I always hear him talking about getting down to the real people at the Dollar General stores. And I think we probably know what those real people at the Dollar General stores really think.
Hey, you
but
find some good stuff there, Phil.
I know. I was just there.
Surprise. Right? You'd be surprised.
I'm not saying it's a bad store. I'm not saying it's a bad store. All right. We got another one. Dina, you've got one apparently centered around Ginger Z. Is that correct?
Yeah, and we love Ginger. And she's always so graceful to people. Yep. So this JJG2DIB, which doesn't even make sense, said knees looking a little wrinkly. Longer fabric necessary. And then this other person, which has a weird Twitter handle, CZAITA36. While she may have nice legs, she has terrible knees. Oh my God. They take away from her look. And then Ginger replied, "I've had trolls for just about everything, but I don't think I've ever had them for my knees until today." I'm like, I read this and I'm like, tell the guy to F off, man. Yeah. You can't do that on TV, but
we know what everybody's thinking. Well, let me, Dina, let me go ahead and enter that here into the Weather Trollbot. Okay, I think I got that. We're gonna go ahead and let her compute. And then so we got to really figure out, I guess, what Ginger was really thinking, because we know that she's like a lot of us. She's a real person, right?
Have you seen Ginger? She's gorgeous.
She is, right. All right, let's see what she said.
Here's what Ginger was really thinking. My fucking knees. I think we've now covered it all.
Okay, that's probably what she really was thinking. What do you do now? You've covered every part of my body at this point. What do we do now?
when
Oh
if
my
you have to
gosh.
focus on someone's knees.
All right, so
had
I
somebody
think
take a
Go
picture
back
of
to
my
your
name
mother's
and post it on
basement and shut up.
social media.
I think she's the bee's knees. I'm just saying.
oh god, no one knows what that means anymore, Maz.
Hey.
What does that mean? I don't even. What does it mean?
What does it mean?
Millennials.
Yeah.
All right, and then we've got one more, and this comes from our lovely co-host herself, Kim. You've had your own trolls, I hear.
I have. Somebody actually took a picture of my knees and posted it and said something like the same thing, and saying there's a smiley face on her knee. And, oh my gosh, it's terrible. But anyway, poor Ginger.
It's distracting. I can't pay attention to the
Tim.
weather.
Give me their name.
I can take it. Somehow I think Ginger can take it. So
Yeah.
it's no big deal. But okay. All right. So, we had an earthquake in, it was actually a 4.4 that was centered in Cleveland, Tennessee. Yesterday morning, and I actually woke up to it. So I got on Twitter immediately and I tweeted out, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just, lived through an earthquake," and blah, blah, blah. Well, lo and behold, Cheetah Pizza replies. Cheetah Pizza.
Stupid names.
Replies. Right, because I'm excited, like, oh my gosh, okay, I've been through a hurricane, tornado, earthquake, I always wanted to experience. And, sure enough, I lived through one. So Cheetah Pizza replies, "We in Northridge and Sylmar call a magnitude 4.4 an aftershock, a spouse nudging for more goddamn covers earthquake. Get a few under Tennessee's belt, you will know. Cleveland, Tennessee, oh my God, that place, my body's shaking. Wow."
What?
Oh my God.
All right.
Coffee in the morning.
I got it, right? It's like people in California think this is nothing, right? So
Yeah.
anyway,
What was your reply on Twitter? How did you
my
respond
reply was LOL.
How else could you?
I guess it's all relative. I feel the same way about California tornadoes.
That's pretty good.
F1s, EF1s. It's like, you don't even know what it's like to be through a.
So
major
that was a
tornado.
very Kim, that was very sweet, right? Very good. Little bit of a dig in the end there.
Little dig,
reply.
Gotcha. Uh-huh.
But let's see if Weather Trollbot can actually get what you were thinking. So I'm going to go ahead and enter that in, and your response on that. All right, let me work on the computation. And this is going to be interesting, Kim, because I've known you to always be this sweet, nice gal. Let's see what you were really thinking.
That'll be good.
He doesn't know me.
Here's
Okay.
what Kim was thinking. LOL. I guess it's all relative. I feel the same way about California tornadoes.
Well, you were actually thinking that.
Really?
You are such a sweet
Oh my
person.
God.
It is.
Oh my God!
I can't. That's not surprising.
Oh
But that can't be right. I'm sorry. I typed something wrong.
Yeah.
I had to have typed
Crunch the
something
numbers
wrong.
again, Phil. Crunch them
sorry.
again.
Do it again.
We got to try that.
Here it comes.
I mean, I know you're really a nice woman, but let's see.
Here's what Kim was really thinking. What an a-hole. Though that may be a small earthquake where you live. Our tornadoes would be like your spouse giving you a colonoscopy with a jackhammer.
Whoa! Okay, Kim. Wow.
Winner.
Nice.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
exactly what I was thinking.
You've got some bad
That's
thoughts.
amazing.
that is
You
a
know.
bad visual too.
Yes.
Wow.
She's got a tornado tree with his name on it.
All right. Well, hey,
There you go.
I'll say this to our listeners: if you guys come across anybody that's harassing any of our weather friends on social media, send it to us so that we can go ahead and enter it into our soon-to-be for sale Weather Trollbot 5000, and we'll see what she can come up with. All right, MJ, any feedback from folks?
Hey, well, lots of good feedback in the chat again tonight. We welcome everybody to join us for these live broadcasts and participate in that and contact us via Facebook, Twitter, all those things as well. Jamie Sims checked in with us this week. I love falling asleep listening to you guys. I was wondering, would you ever consider? Yeah, I know. How about that?
Wait a minute. Yeah.
All right. That's all right.
Yeah, put that in the troll bot, huh?
Would you ever consider doing an episode on how the movie Twister affected you?
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be
I
good.
remember that
Have
well.
you guys ever seen that movie?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, just
You guys might not like my replies.
Wasn't Gary England in the movie?
he was. Yes, he actually was.
Smack it up, flip it, rub it down.
Jump
All
back.
right, you got it. You got to pull that one out every episode, don't you, Mass? That's good.
That's right.
All right, well, folks, I think that just about does it for this episode of Stormfront Freaks podcast. Thanks for listening and watching. But before I reveal who our next guest is going to be, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, do us a favor. Leave us a great review on your podcast app. And more importantly, don't forget to subscribe to the show. You do that by hitting your podcast app subscribe button. Works just like a magazine or newspaper, only this one is free. And it just assures the latest show gets delivered right to your inbox the minute that we release it so you can listen. So I do want to say special thanks to our guest tonight, Jaclyn Whittal. Jaclyn, thank you.
Thanks, Jaclyn.
Thank you so much.
That was a lot of fun. You had some great stories, and I'm going to get you to sing the Christmas album at some point.
I'll lay down some tracks in the studio before
I think so. I think we got to swell up social media to call for that. Call for the Jaclyn Whittal Christmas album. But hey, folks,
awesome.
our next episode is going to be in 2 weeks. And we're going to be recording on December 27th. And listen to this. We're going to be giving you a late Christmas gift by having TV meteorologist and finalist on the American Ninja Warrior, Joe Moravsky, is going to be with us. So Joe is a TV weatherman, but he's a big-time American Ninja Warrior. Competition. He's amazing. They call him like the weather ninja or something, which is cool. But hey, if you'd like to watch the recording live, it's going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central. Check that out on our YouTube channel by searching Stormfront Freaks.
Hey, Phil.
Yeah.
You know, if Jaclyn actually does a Christmas album, you got to get a picture of you slipping and falling. And the title is Walking in a Winter Wonderland.
That'll be good.
That's good.
Circle.
That would be good. All right, so on that note, for MJ, Maz, Brady, Dina, Kim, we got the whole crew here with Jaclyn as well. I'm going to go ahead and signal the all clear, and we'll catch you guys next time. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you for listening to the Stormfront Freaks podcast. Find our bi-weekly show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Watch our shows on YouTube and Oklahoma Weather Tracker TV. For show notes, additional information about this episode, as well as past and upcoming shows, videos, photos, merchandise, and more, visit our website at stormfrontfreaks.com. While you're there, check out our live interactive storm chaser radar provided by our friends at zoomradar.com. If you would like to contact us with questions or make comments about the show, shoot us an email to questions@stormfrontfreaks.com or follow us on Twitter or Facebook. Search for Stormfront Freaks. We'd love to hear from you. Join us next time and tell a friend about the Stormfront Freaks podcast.
Hey, Phil, what did Elvin
That
want
was
for
fun.
Christmas? You never said the answer.
Oh.
The viewers want to know.
He wanted a hula hoop.
It was
Hula
a
hoop.
hula
It
hoop.
was a hula
No,
hoop.
no, they.
That's
Wow.
right. And he's like super high. Molly,
Nicely done.
Now you remember it, right?
See, you
good
don't
times.
just canter, you decant.
Where's the drums?
Yeah. There we go. Okay.